Right now it's 30 degrees at O'Hare and Kankakee. It's 30 in Maryville. I'm Nava Lara, WBEZ News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the law firm Cooley LLP, with offices in the U.S., Europe, and Asia. Cooley advises entrepreneurs, investors, financial institutions, and established companies around the world where innovation meets the law.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Mary Louise Kelly.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. President-elect Joe Biden is rounding out his economic team. In addition to Janet Yellen, who's been tapped as the next Treasury Secretary, Biden has selected a trio of economists to serve as White House advisors. He's also chosen a deputy for Yellen and a new White House budget director. If confirmed by the Senate, this incoming team will help steer the economy through the immediate challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic. Biden also says he wants to confront more long-lasting economic problems. Well, to talk about this team and the work ahead of them, we're joined by NPR's Scott Horsley. Welcome. Hi, Scott.
With you, Art.
Well, what can you tell us about these nominees?
It is a diverse group of 4 women, in addition to Yellen, 2 African Americans, 1 nominee of Indian descent. It's also a group with a lot of experience. Most of these nominees served in the Obama administration. Some were also in the Clinton administration. And several were in the government when the U.S. was recovering from the last economic meltdown a decade ago. So this is a team with some experience dealing with economic hardships. They are people who believe in the government and, for the most part, have served in the government. Like Yellen, they are also mostly familiar faces, at least within the world of economic policymaking. So while in some instances the nominations are historic, they are not surprising. There's nobody out of left field here.
What's been the reaction so far?
It's been generally positive. Certainly news of Yellen's nomination, which broke last week, was very welcomed by other women in the economics field. She was a trailblazer in a profession that has not always been super welcoming for women, and a lot of women took extra satisfaction in Yellen being chosen as the first female Treasury Secretary in U.S. history. The other nominees have the kinds of backgrounds you would more or less expect in a mainstream Democratic White House. One, though, who has gotten some pushback is Neera Tanden. She's Biden's pick to head the White House Budget Office. Tanden was a policy advisor to Hillary Clinton, both in 2008 and 2016, and she now heads the Center for American Progress, which is a think tank started by Clinton ally John Podesta. Tanden has been outspoken on Twitter, which, as we know, is not always a platform that encourages calm and measured discourse, so she has thrown some sharp elbows over the years. And a spokesman for Texas Senator John Cornyn says she's rubbed a lot of GOP senators the wrong way and has, quote, 0 chance of being confirmed. Now, I asked the spokesman for some specifics, and he has not responded, so I'm not sure whether the beef here is just bruised egos or something more substantial than that. Tanden has also gotten some criticism from those on the left who see her as insufficiently progressive. The job of budget director is not usually really high profile, but it is powerful within the federal bureaucracy, and either Tanden or whoever gets that post will have a hand on a lot of levers.
Yeah, let's talk about the challenges that this economic team is going to face, because the economy has not yet fully recovered from the pandemic. What's ahead of them?
Yeah, we still have millions of people out of work, and for those who haven't been able to go back to work yet, it could be a long time before they're back on a job. Every week we get news of more people being laid off. A lot of the relief efforts that Congress authorized very early in the pandemic has either already expired or is set to run out right after Christmas. In the meantime, the virus itself shows no signs of slowing down. As the weather gets colder, more people are spending time indoors and more people are getting sick. We have gotten these encouraging results from some of the large-scale vaccine trials, and that does offer hope for next spring and summer. But first, the winter is going to be really tough.
I mentioned that in addition to tackling the immediate crisis, Biden hopes to address some longer-term economic problems. What does he have in mind?
Yeah, obviously the first job is going to be dealing with the immediate hardships caused by the recession. And even before the president-elect takes office, Biden has been pushing for additional relief from Congress. But he also said, in announcing his picks today, that he wants the team to address the structural challenges that workers were facing before the pandemic and will continue to face when it's over. Cecilia Rouse, for example, who Biden has tapped to chair the Council of Economic Advisors, has devoted her academic career to looking at how to improve education and combat discrimination. And Janet Yellen herself used her very first tweet today to say she wants to build an American dream for everybody.
A new day when Janet Yellen is on Twitter. That's NPR's chief economics correspondent, Scott Horsley. Thanks a lot.
Good to be with you.
Hundreds of kids in Southern Oregon
lost their homes to a catastrophic wildfire in September, just a week before school was supposed to start. Now, some students are showing signs of extreme stress and anxiety, causing school leaders and parents to consider resuming in-person classes. Jefferson Public Radio's April Eric has the story.
It's a little time. Let's sing the alphabet song. It's another busy morning in the Bucolo home, which right now is actually a bed and breakfast that they've been living in since a wildfire destroyed their house in Talent, Oregon. Courtney Bucolo is getting her two kids, Abby and Henry, ready for the day. Abby is 5, well, 5.5, and she just started kindergarten.
Do you have friends in school?
She says she doesn't know them yet because she's only ever seen them on a computer screen. Abby speaks softly, so she seems shy at first. But Courtney said her daughter wasn't always like this. Abby's medicated for anxiety and has been since an incident shortly after the fire.
She was cool or something, but it kept escalating to the point where she was screaming and doubling over every couple of minutes.
Courtney and her husband took Abby to the hospital, where she seemed to go catatonic. She curled into a fetal position, didn't talk to anyone, and hardly answered nurses' questions. At one point, Abby started screaming again and passed out. The doctor said all of her tests came out clear.
And then they were like, "We think it's a panic attack."
Courtney says Abby started having mild panic attacks after the onset of the pandemic. They got worse after the Almeida fire, which destroyed 2,400 homes in the towns of Talent and Phoenix. Abby has always taken refuge in building up her nest. She had her family of stuffies, and they all had names, and she played with the same friends she's known since birth.
And it was like, one day we took her away and she never saw them again. And her structure was gone, her everything, her little world was gone.
Abby is one of 700 students in the Talent Phoenix School District who lost their homes to the fire. Some are now living in hotels or relatives' houses, and some are even living in tents. Like Abby, a lot of them are having a hard time dealing with these sudden changes. Their lives have been upended twice in 1 year. First, the pandemic, then the wildfire.
That lack of stability, the lack of predictability can be really harmful.
Phoenix Elementary School Principal Shauna Schleif says that's part of why the district wants to return to in-person learning this winter, for a sense of normalcy.
So if we can mitigate that by bringing kids back on campus to create space for kids to be and be in relation with one another and give families, a reprieve to take care of all of the things that they need to take care of, we want to be able to do that.
But if students come back to school this year, it's not going to be normal. It'll likely be a hybrid model, with some students coming to campus during different parts of the day, all while wearing face masks.
There tends to be a worry for their own safety as well as their family's safety.
Melissa Breimer is a program director with the UCLA Duke National Center for Child Traumatic Stress.
If we're pushing something that others are saying may not be safe, there's going to be a snooze fest.
Back at the bed and breakfast, Courtney Bucolo watches Abby finish her schoolwork online. She and her husband hope Abby can go back to school soon, in person, because Abby isn't connecting with other students.
I think she needs it. It's the worst decision to make. Like, we know that the virus is real, and we know that it's a problem, and we assume that if they go back to in-person learning, there will be an increase in cases, and we'll probably have to stop seeing my grandparents. It's a rock and a hard place. They're both crappy decisions.
But with coronavirus cases skyrocketing in this region, it's unlikely Abby will have the opportunity to meet her kindergarten classmates in person at all. For NPR News, I'm April Ehrlich in Talent, Oregon.
In Alaska's Tlingit tribe, there's one character who appears again and again. Raven is in many traditional stories, and next year he'll show up someplace new, a U.S. postage stamp.
The main thing where I thought about what is my responsibility as a member of the Tlingit people.
Artist Rico Worrell, he's believed to be the first member of his tribe to design a postage stamp.
I ended up choosing a story called, which is often referred to as Raven and the Vault of Daylight.
Raven looked around, and it was dark. There was no sun, no moon, no stars. That was the way it was back in those ancient days, when it was dark
archive of the Sealaska Heritage Institute. Rico Worrell grew up hearing this and other stories.
A couple years ago, an art director found his work in the gift shop at the Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C., and contacted Worrell.
It's exciting to be able to be asked to do a stamp. I knew with a national platform, I knew that it would get whatever image put out there, it would get